Alexander Isak has refused to play for Newcastle, training alone, and is reportedly vacating his home in Portland. This situation is getting hotter and hotter by the day because Newcastle fans are beginning to burn Isak's jersey. It is getting literally what we did not think was going to happen. The truth about this situation is that things are getting out of hand. Newcastle are holding firm. Isak is holding firm that he wants to move to Liverpool, but Newcastle haven't gotten a replacement, nor do they want to actually sell him. But today in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys a breakdown of what is happening, angles that people are not talking about, views from Isak's point of view, Newcastle's point of view, and Liverpool's point of view. I'm going to be breaking this down for you guys to understand it because I think you deserve to know what is happening and give yourself a timeline to know what side you actually stand on this situation and not just focus on people saying that Isak choosing not to play for Newcastle. Who the hell is he? Whatever. That is not what we're going to be doing here on Pillar Sports. What we do here on Pillar Sports is break things down so you guys would understand and make your minds up on what you need to make your mind and where you stand about this situation. But without further ado, let's get this party started. First things first, Alexander Isak has reportedly refused to play for Newcastle, whether they have a deal done with Liverpool or not in this summer. He has basically told intermediaries, or this was reported via intermediaries, that Isak is not going to ever play for Newcastle again. And what we are even hearing is that Isak is vacating, he's moving out of his Ponte land home. It is mind-blowing. And of course, we can't go forward without talking about Liverpool making the £110 million bid that was rejected by Newcastle. Of course, they rejected this situation because it was 4 million short of what they actually want, which is £150 million for Alexander Isak. Now, this situation doesn't just have to come about the money, because that would be a world record fee for in the Premier League. You understand? It will be a world record fee. Newcastle are strongly adamant that he is not for sale unless they can sign 2 top-tier replacements, which they have failed to do thus far. They tried to get Bryan Mbeumo. They failed. They tried to get Mateus Cunha. They failed. They tried to get Benjamin Šeško. They failed. And now what they are looking at is the likes of Johan Wissa and Nicholas Jackson. That situation is what they're looking at. But I think they actually need to open their minds to actually going in for the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because he is a talented boy. He is just ridden with injuries. That's one thing that we know for sure. So this situation, now we have to look at the point of view. What is Isak's point of view? What is the point from a star to Standoff? That is what we need to focus on right now. Why does he want out? It is believed that in his time at Newcastle is totally over. That is what he believes. He believes his time at Newcastle is over regardless of whether the transfer happens or not. He wants to join Liverpool, a club with Champions League pedigree and a more global spotlight. He's frustrated at Newcastle's refusal to negotiate, especially after his 23-goal season. The tactics that he has used to do this situation is he has refused to come to training or to play in the tour. That in itself is quite harsh in my mind, because you will think that, okay, the way to do it is actually coming to the team, telling them that you want to leave, just like how Bryan Mbeumo did with Brentford. And Brentford came back into the table to negotiate with Manchester United, and 2 weeks later, they got the deal done. He's now reportedly vacating his home in Portland. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right, but bear with me. He's vacating that home that he stays while he was for Newcastle. And now you're also then seeing public leaks and pressure via his agent. These are the ways that he's using to actually get this deal done. Now, this comes with risk. It comes with pure risk. And that is a problem that we need to actually address. This has absolutely started damaging his reputation. Of course, Gabriel Agbonlahor called his behavior disgusting and warned Liverpool that he could do the same to them later when it comes to him going to Real Madrid. And of course, you also then have to look at him being likely to miss out on the World Cup next summer if he's frozen out, because he's not going to be playing football for over 12 months. And that is a problem for Alexander Isak. It's a problem for Sweden. It's a problem for the world of football in general, because we won't be able to watch his brilliance. That alone is a problem. Now we have to look at the Newcastle point of view, because we need to be balanced in this situation, being that we are outsiders. Now, the Newcastle's point of view is them holding the line. Why are Newcastle resisting Alexander Isak going to Liverpool? Of course, first things first, we have to talk about Alexander Isak currently is under a contract up to 2028. He's their top goal scorer and their key to their Champions League ambitions. This alone is truly one of the two big reasons why I believe Newcastle do not want to let him leave. Or not let him leave anyway yet. They have missed out on the likes of Hugo Ekitike, which went to Liverpool. And Benjamin Sesko, who has now just been presented as Manchester United player. So replacements are absolutely scarce in the market right now. When it comes to top class strikers, it is just scarce. They do not want to be bullied by the player power or by rival clubs. And this is something that I wish they had come out and made this stance before the news got out of hand. Because if they had come out and said, hey, he is not for sale, he is remaining at Newcastle, it would have been a different ball game. But they dilly-dallied. They tried to get a new striker. They tried to get a replacement striker. And when it did not work out, now they're holding that stance. And I think that's a problem. But what is the current stance that they are holding right now? Isak is not for sale unless Liverpool meets the £150 million valuation and Newcastle secure 2 quality strikers. So this is not just a situation about them getting the money that they want. They also want to have the ability to replace Isak with 2 people, 2 quality strikers before they let Isak out to go to Liverpool. That makes this deal a lot more difficult to do. They have assigned his usual number 14 shirt, signaling that they won't back down easily. You understand? This situation is not getting any better anytime soon. We have 20 days in the transfer market. We have less than 5 days to the start of the Premier League. It is getting heated, and this is where it's getting excited. Now, the risk about this situation to the likes of Eddie Howe, the owners and the fans of Newcastle, this is risking the dressing room morale. This could absolutely make the Geordies get knocked out of the Champions League, get in a very bad in the Premier League, because the morale in the dressing room has absolutely been disturbed. And if Isak refuses to play, then they are short of a striker, with Callum Wilson already gone because of this situation. Now, something that a lot of people are not talking about is the point of view from Liverpool. This is a calculated aggression from the Scousers. It's calculated. They are making their moves very timely, making bids very timely. Why do they want Isak? I think this is quite clear in my opinion. They need a marquee striker. After selling Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez to Bayern Munich and Al Hilal respectively. Mohamed Salah, of course, is becoming of age every single year, so we cannot be expecting the King of Egypt to keep on giving us 30 goals every season. And I'm saying us because of Liverpool. I'm talking about Liverpool here. Isak fits the profile of a long-term successor. And that is definitely one thing that they want to get done. They have already signed the likes of Hugo Ekitike, Florian Wirtz, Milos Kerkez, Jeremy Frimpong. Isak will complete the attacking overhaul because that is what it is. Now, what is the stance of Liverpool as we speak? They have Newcastle have rejected the 110 million pounds that they bid, and they are also not willing to go to 150 million pounds unless Newcastle softens. You understand? Unless they literally come back to the table and start having the conversation. Secondly, they are monitoring the situation, but may pivot to other targets if this deadlock continues. And that is a problem. If Newcastle do not want to sell and they are holding their line, Liverpool can pivot to a different target. Or they can just understand that they have a talented squad with Ekitike already showing us what he can do in the Community Shield. They could just stick with that. Now, what are the risks of this situation? They will be losing out on a top striker. Because one thing is for sure, next year, a lot more people would come in for Alexander Isak. They might be drawn into a public tug of war that will sour future negotiations. It will sour the negotiations between Newcastle and Liverpool. And you don't want to do that because Isak is not the end all and be all. You might come and want a player more in the future that Newcastle has, and they do not want to sell to you anymore because the negotiations and the future relationship have been severed. The truth about this situation is that we need to also pay attention to the dominoes that are about to take place. And the first domino is Isak submits a formal transfer request. What could happen in this situation? This forces Newcastle's hand, and the impact of that situation is that could trigger a war or a final showdown. Another domino effect that could happen if Isak leaves is that Newcastle then will sign Johan Wissa, who is a partial replacement for Callum Wilson. Yes, it might soften the stance on selling Isak, and that is definitely something that would look good for Newcastle, especially because they have had such a torrid time in the summer. And then you look at the next domino. Liverpool increased the bid to around 130 to 140 million pounds just to test Newcastle's resolve. And what you can see in that situation, Newcastle could accept if the replacements are being lined up. And then you look at the situation, which is something that would absolutely be a devastating sight for both parties. If Newcastle fail to sign any striker, Isak stays but remains frozen out. The season starts with a major hole in the attacking lineup for Newcastle. Or then let's look at another situation. If Isak backs down and gets reintegrated, which is unlikely but possible, this would require a major PR repair diplomacy for this to be able to work. Because we are already seeing Newcastle fans burning the number 14 shirt, burning Isak behind the name, wasting a good Newcastle shirt. I can literally imagine a good Newcastle shirt right now. We are looking around $160 to $175. He's just wasting it. And the last but not least, when it comes to this situation, other clubs might enter the race. And then this raises the stakes. Because this particular idea of other clubs entering the race could drive up the price and shift Isak's destination. Now we are going to focus on the strategic angles or situations that could be explored in the forward. But we are going to focus on this situation. Player power versus club identity. That's something that this system, this topic and this transfer is absolutely testing. The player power or the club identity. You also can look at Liverpool's transfers masterclass or a misstep, because they are putting a lot of money on Isak without knowing that it's going to come. Or then we can look at the anatomy of modern transfer saga on how this breakdown leaks, agent tactics, and media pressure. There's so many things that we can talk about this situation, but the first thing we need to do is ask the question, and I hope you guys can answer it down in the comments. Will Isak stay at Newcastle, or will he finally, succeedingly find a way to Liverpool? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications so YouTube can tell you when my Pillar Sports post, and so you do not miss out on anything that we have to offer. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.